Hey guys, and welcome to Super 6-1. It's been a little while since I made a video, so I just wanted to jump on here and talk to you guys about a few different things. And in the background we have some brand new gameplay on Assetto Corsa Competizione with the new GT4 DLC. I'm driving the Ginetta, which without a shadow of a doubt is my favourite new car in that GT4 pack. I attend a lot of British Touring Car Championship events, and the Ginetta Cup is actually one of the supporting races for the BTCC. So I've got a real soft spot for these cars. I think they look smart, they're quick, they're nimble. And as you can see, I've set this up as a same class event, so all the cars I'm up against are Ginettas, so it is very similar to the Ginetta Cup. Now, I will get into this later on, but I started at about 15th and I'm trying to work my way to the front of the grid. I've got the difficulty set to about 89 or 90%, so it's not too difficult. That I'm doing this to try and build up my safety rating by, racing close to cars, as close as possible, making my way through the pack and try and rank up my safety rating, which is something, as I said, I want to talk to you guys about later on. Now before I jump in, since my last video I've actually gained a few new subscribers, so that's nice to see. Anyone who's stopping by the channel, enjoying some of this mediocre content, I'm glad you're enjoying it enough to hit that subscribe button, so thank you for that. Now it's been a few weeks now since I got my Fanatec wheel. Of course I did that initial video, and then I've done a little video since where I briefly touch on some of the updates since then. And it's now been another 2 weeks. Now, I have actually been on holiday for about 10 days in that time, so I've only had an extra couple of days back on the wheel in the meantime, but I can tell you that the issues are continuing. So, if you haven't heard previously, everything with the wheel, physically at least at the moment, seems fine, but I'm having serious issues with drivers. Now, this is something I've discussed with a lot of people on Facebook, on Fanatec groups, and it isn't only me. This is actually an issue that seems to be prevalent with quite a few different users. The issue being that randomly, or seemingly randomly, my shifter paddles stop working, and when I switch onto the property page, it thinks I have the podium paddle shifters that have obviously 3 paddles per hand, if you like. And they still register when I'm pressing them. You can see them clicking at the top, but it thinks I have the triple one, so it doesn't actually think I'm changing gear. Now this seemed to be happening at first randomly, but then I did notice after somebody else pointed it out that when it first happened, and it happened recently, it's when there's been a bit of a bump. So I think the first time I mounted the curb to overtake somebody, bounced up the curb, and suddenly the paddles stopped working. The other day I actually span out a little bit on some grass and just kind of briefly grazed along the barrier, and the paddles stopped working. So some people were saying they think it's something to do with a loose connection inside the steering wheel, and when the steering wheel is being shaken about, that's what's causing this issue, which I really didn't think it was, because if the paddles were having a wiring issue, I think they would just stop working completely. The fact that it switches in the driver to think I have a different wheel, and it's still registering those paddles but as different buttons, to me it doesn't seem the case. And I did test this theory by basically driving around for an hour, crashing into walls, cars, anything I could find at full speed or slow speeds, or trying different things and letting the wheel go crazy a bit, kind of holding onto it very lightly so the wheel would really shake. And I couldn't get it to happen again. I couldn't replicate this issue, so I really don't think it's just the fact there's some loose wiring that when it gets shaken about is causing this error. Some people think it's to do with a Windows driver update, because one person said the wheel's been fine for a year and then there's been a Windows update and since then it's getting progressively worse. I've tried various drivers now. I've tried the 346, the 365, the 356, and after actually reaching out on Facebook, one of the Fanatec staff members, a technical staff member I think, told me to message him through the Fanatec forum, which I did. And this is only 2 days ago, and he's actually given me the new 370 drivers, which aren't actually out yet. He said, try these, I want you to, give me feedback and let me know if you have any errors. Now since then I've done about 12 hours of playing, and this error hasn't occurred again at all, which you may think, great, problem solved, but the first time it happened to me I probably did about 15 hours before it ever actually happened, so I wouldn't be surprised if I could go all day with no errors and then suddenly it happened. So I'm still holding my breath, but so far the new 370 driver, which is going to be a beta driver released to the public I think later this week, it has seemingly, maybe, touch wood, hopefully, solved the issue. I do think it's a driver issue. I'm pretty convinced it's not a physical issue. If it is, then of course Fanatec have said they will replace it for me, but in the meantime we're trying to work together to try and resolve this issue. I think they're using me as a bit of a guinea pig to try and find out what this actual issue is. Now aside from that, I also got some Lion GP decals for my steering wheel, which you may be able to see in the top right corner there. So these are just a sticker kit, not only for the buttons, but there's some that go around some of the dials and switches. Most of them I've tried to put in accurate positions to what I actually have on the wheel. It's a bit difficult because between playing Assetto Corsa and F1, of course, you have different functionality. Some things you can and can't do in either game, so I've got them set out as best as possible to kind of be universal for the settings and setup I have on both those two games. I've had a few people asking where I got these stickers from, so I will leave a link to his Instagram, LionGP, down in the description below. I think it definitely adds a little layer to the wheel, it makes it look cool, and of course they do add a layer of functionality to make it easier to remember where all your programming buttons are. So going back to talking about the events going on in the gameplay here, as I said, this was a race that I started about 15th near the back of the grid. I usually play with 20 cars on track, including myself. I think it's a good number that is a realistic level of cars on track, and it also doesn't destroy my computer. I find that's a great number to get peak performance without kind of overkilling it too much. And the reason I started at the back and had it on about 89 to 90% difficulty is to try and work my way to the front. As you may or may not know, the best way to increase your safety rating is to be driving quickly and closely and competitively with other drivers without having any contact or crashes with them. Now, the reason I am so desperately trying to increase my safety rating is to try and join better servers. At the moment, I've got a safety rating of 45, which isn't that high at all. And a lot of that is because it keeps getting knocked back down when I'm in these online races because I'm joining public servers. And I must admit, I am not a very quick driver. There are a lot of drivers out there faster than me, and that's fine. I'm here to learn, I'm still new to it, I just want to improve, and a great way to do that is against real players. I don't think you can really improve if you only take on the computer. There's definitely a ceiling to your ability if you don't go up against real players. But of course, if you're joining public servers where there's people who aren't too bothered about their safety rating or they're not too bothered about driving properly, this can cause a bit of an issue. Now, as I said, I'm not the fastest driver. There's lots of occasions where I will just move to one side, let faster drivers through to avoid any incident, any collisions. And this is something that happened the other day. I joined a server, I'd actually missed the qualifying. There's only 8 people in there, so it put me 8th at the back, just in time for the race to start, and that was fine. But as the race started, as you can imagine in a lot of these things, all the players ahead of me got caught up in a collision in turn 1. So by the end of turn 2, I was actually in 3rd place. The guys in 1st and 2nd were already streaking away, but I was all by myself in 3rd. And that was fine, I was going round and round, happy to take 3rd place. This was a 20-minute race. About 15 minutes in, a player who was clearly much faster than me because he caught up with me from being back in all that crash quite a while ago, was starting to gain on me. Now, as he got to the corner where he was going to make the move on me, I actually went wide and let him go through to avoid crashing into each other or trying to fight for the racing line. But as soon as he got ahead of me, he just randomly hit the brake right in front of me. And I tried my best to avoid him, but I did just gently kiss the back of his bumper. Very, very gently. I didn't feel it through the force feedback or the wheel at all, but just enough to send him skidding and sliding a little bit off to the right of the track. He didn't go completely off, but just enough that he slid around a bit and I went back past him. Now, I immediately apologised in the chat. You know, it wasn't an intentional move, it was just a racing incident, even though I'd say he was definitely to blame as he slammed on the brakes while he was only a few metres ahead of me for no reason at all. There was no actual braking zone ahead of us. But because of that, I continued in 3rd, went round a few more laps. There was probably about 5 minutes of the race left when I suddenly heard of the team radio, slow car ahead, and I knew exactly what was happening. He was waiting for me on the corner. As I went by, he kind of joined the track, came across, slammed into me, spammed me out, and managed to continue. We did this 3 more times. Each time I actually managed to continue, and I still was in 3rd place because the guys behind that were so far back now that I basically had about a minute's lead on the guys in 4th and 5th place. But he was continuing to bump into me, to bang into me, till eventually he cut across a corner and just javelined into the side of me and completely destroyed the car, and I had to go back to the garage. And this was, you know, with only a few minutes left, and I was going to take 3rd place and get a nice little trophy there. So that kind of stuff is very disheartening, especially when, you know, you're trying to race as clean as possible, and, you know, these little mistakes do happen, and then somebody completely loses their head and just ruins your entire event for you, intentionally. Anyway, that's my rant over for now. That's the main reason I'm playing a lot of single player. I don't really like the career mode on this. I think it's a little bit tedious. The championship mode's good fun, but to be honest, most of the time I just create my own events, my own races, as you can see in this video here. I'd like to hear from you down in the comments below what kind of stuff you do, if you mainly play online or offline. I actually made a poll on the Sim Racing Facebook group and got banned for a week, because making polls apparently is so bad it's worth being banned for a week. All my poll was literally, you know, how much time do you guys play online as opposed to offline when you're playing, and that got me banned for a week. So at least I got me banned from my own channel. So tell me down in the comments, you know, do you spend 50-50 online, offline, or do you just solely play online or just solely offline? I'd love to know down in the comments below. Well, we've still got a few minutes left. The last thing I wanted to kind of discuss with you guys is the fact that I am very excited for the release of the British Track DLC coming to Assetto Corsa. Now, I don't know when it's coming out, I'm not too sure yet, but from what I understand, they're releasing a British GT track pack. So obviously at the moment we already have Silverstone and Brands Hatch, but I think we'll be getting the rest of the British GT tracks, things like Snetterton, Knockhill, Alton Park, Donington, maybe Rockingham. A lot of the old BTCC tracks in Rockingham now is gone, but could be the pack. I'd still love to see it. So when they come out, that will be great. Then I'll be really excited to make more events like this, you know, the Ginetta Cup, the Porsche Cup, using more of the GT4s as they're a little bit more similar to the British Touring Car style, and making a championship, you know, solely on those British tracks. And speaking of that, they have actually announced there is going to be a British Touring Car Championship official game coming out. Now, I won't hold my breath because I forget who's making it, but it's somebody who's made another game recently that isn't the best in terms of levels of simulation, but all the same, I am a sucker for British Touring Car Championship stuff, so maybe you'll see some of that on the channel in the future as well. Anyway guys, that's it for today. I just wanted to have a little catch up and chat to you guys with this gameplay in the background. If you have anything else you'd like me to talk about or show on the video, tell me in the comments, and of course, if you have subscribed to the channel, thank you very much, and I'll see you guys next time.